When Bo Nix went 12th overall in the NFL draft, I know it was surprising to many that he went that high, but nobody was really surprised that he went to the Denver Broncos, a team seemingly from the onset that was linked to Bo Nix was Denver. Their interest was there. Everybody kind of heard about it. All the reporting was that Sean Payton loved Bo Nix and that they were going to be a good fit. Enter today's report via Albert Breer of the NFL Network.
Real quick, before you dive into this, do you find it a little bit strange how much the Denver Broncos have pushed to national media very specific storylines around Bo Nix? Whether it's Alex Forsythe or this or the shaping of the film that they went through to go get, like, do protest a little too much. No other team is doing this.
The weird part about the Forsythe one is weird. Everything else is like all stuff that usually does come out, like the weird backpack story that usually comes out.
It just seems like the Denver Broncos are at the forefront of
Well,
this.
in this one, I don't think they wanted this to come out because this seems a little off in that Breer is saying that in order to keep their quarterback preference a secret, their draft board in their war room was intentionally out of order because they didn't want people to know which quarterback they wanted to take. Sean Payton said it after the draft that he hoaxed the Vikings into thinking that they were going to take J.J. McCarthy, so they would trade up to 10 one spot and with the Jets to do it.
Expensive capital.
And say, hey, we're going to jump you and go to 10, and we're going to take McCarthy. And they were fine with just sitting at 12 and drafting Nix. Well, apparently only Sean Payton, George Payton, their GM, and Greg Penner, their CEO, they were the only people in their war room that knew that they wanted to draft Bo Nix.
Which is kind of crazy because Benjamin Albright, who works in Denver and works sidelines for the Broncos, had a tweet where it spelled out the first letter in each sentence was, it's Bo.
Well, and that's what doesn't make sense about this is everybody knew. Everybody knew.
It's like
Denver and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Like we talked about it from the combine
on
to the draft is Denver going to trade down to get Bo Nix and generate some more draft capital because they didn't need to take him at 12. Well, then the Atlanta Falcons go and take Michael Penix Jr. and they're like, oh crap, we're going to make sure nobody gets a quarterback and trades up. And that threw the whole trading down out the window. This one, the only thing that I can think of is that Peyton, and Penner, who run the show in Denver, they immediately during the combine and in the wake of the combine, when Bo Nix kind of emerged as a guy that they loved, when that got out, they realized they had a leaky ship and that people were talking within their organization.
It's too late at that point.
And I know, but so they kept it a secret from everybody else from that point moving forward because all they wanted to push out there was they were showing interest in J.J. McCarthy, but at the same time, the guy they ended up drafting at 12 was the guy that immediately leaked.
It's like cracking the Enigma machine and just like sending codes on the Enigma machine still. It's like, guys, and the cryptography's been broken. Like it's gone.
What this may tell us all is that this little piece of information came from the person that they know. Like they're trying to find the spy, right? And they probably found that spy because Albert Breer comes out with this information. They're like, all right, now we got you.
Yeah.
Because we know exactly who found out. It's just a weird story all the way around. You're right in that there's this, because they were a team that, even though we knew they need a quarterback, and they took the 6th quarterback in that first round, they were going to have to go quarterback no matter what. It was the fact that it was at 12. So they're sitting there and saying, hey, we had our guy. This was going to be our guy. And they're going to try to justify it to everybody.
It just seems so weird that they're trying to justify that. Like there's going to be some level of like crazy expectation on Bo Nix where I don't think there is. Because everybody looks at that roster and goes, that roster sucks. Nobody's looking at that roster and going, Bo Nix better perform. They're looking at Sean Payton and going, he better develop Bo Nix. I don't think there's much pressure, if any, on Bo.
No, and
and yet all of this stuff that has come out makes it seem and makes it read like that they're trying to like generate something around Bo, and it's like I don't understand like the justification for taking him.
I don't think this story is that way. I think that you're right. The Forsyth won us over, that kind of stuff.
The backpack stuff, like
the back
oh my
again,
God.
the backpack thing. All those dumb stories always come out every draft, and he's just all about football. We love football, and I think that kind of stuff comes out every single year. We find out about that. This one is, unless they have somebody that they knew was leaking stuff out and they have an idea of who it is, I don't think that you had to do any of the things with mixing up your draft board because you didn't want anybody to know your preference. Unless you know that somebody in your war room is a snake, right? Which is, to me, way more alarming than taking Bo Nix at 12, is that you don't trust anybody else in your war room except for 3 people: your head coach, your GM, and the CEO of the franchise.
Wild that that's the case.
That the fact that you don't trust anybody else
is a bigger issue.
I don't think that's not a bright spot for the Denver Broncos right there. That's why I think it's less of them trying to convince us that Bo Nix is the guy and more of an indictment of what is going on behind the scenes in Denver, which, to be quite honest, has been a disaster since they hired Nathaniel Hackett, right? They brought in Russell Wilson. All of the leaks that came out of there about how dysfunctional the organization was and all the backstabbing that was happening in the Denver Broncos org, right? Well, I mean, but he wasn't there when Hackett was hired, but I mean, it's like there's been a lot of just leaks, steady, actually not even leak. It's like a steady flow. It's like a faucet that's just been turned on of information that they don't want. I think that's a bigger indictment on where the Denver Broncos are right now. Organizationally.
Yes. You hate to see it.
Yeah.
The Heat having issues, and now the Broncos having issues. God, it's a tough day for me.
I wonder who's going to get fired. Somebody's going to be getting fired real soon.
Yeah, 100%.
Real soon.